I held my daughter for exactly 7 minutes before they took her away. 7 minutes. That's how long I got to be a mother before I became a victim of the most calculated, cruel betrayal I could have ever imagined. Before a woman in scrubs, someone I'd trusted with my life, walked out of that delivery room with my newborn and drove 3 hours to hand her to a stranger. Her sister. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Because this story doesn't start in a delivery room. It starts 8 months earlier, in a fertility clinic waiting room, where I sat crying over my 5th positive pregnancy test in 3 years, and my 4th miscarriage. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old. And for the longest time, all I wanted was to be a mom. People always told me I'd be a great mother. You know that thing people say? Oh, you're so good with kids. As if being patient with your nephew at Thanksgiving qualifies you for the hardest job on earth. But I believed them. More than that, I needed to believe them. My husband, Marcus, and I had been trying for 4 years. 4 years of tracking ovulation, of timed intimacy that felt more like a medical procedure than love, of pregnancy tests I'd take in the Target bathroom because I couldn't wait to get home, of those 2 pink lines that would appear like a promise, and then disappear like smoke. 3 miscarriages before 12 weeks. Each one carved out a piece of me I didn't know how to get back. The doctors called it unexplained infertility. I called it a cosmic joke. My body could get pregnant, it just couldn't stay pregnant. And there's something uniquely torturous about that. It's hope and heartbreak on a monthly cycle, literally. We'd almost given up. We'd started looking into adoption, spending our evenings scrolling through profiles of waiting children, wondering if we could love someone else's biological child the same way. The answer, I know now, is yes. But that's not how the story goes. Then, in February of 2023, I got pregnant again. This time felt different. I don't know how to explain it except that I just knew. Maybe it was the lack of cramping. Maybe it was the way my morning sickness hit hard at 6 weeks and didn't let up. Maybe it was just desperate optimism. But when I made it past 12 weeks, then 16, then 20, I started to believe. Marcus was more cautious. He wouldn't let me buy baby clothes. Wouldn't set up the nursery. Let's just wait, he'd say, his hand on my growing belly, his eyes carefully neutral. He'd been through this with me 3 times before. He'd held me while I bled, while I sobbed, while I blamed my body for being broken. But at my 20-week anatomy scan, when we found out we were having a girl, something shifted in him too. Charlotte, he whispered, watching her tiny heartbeat on the screen. We should name her Charlotte. I squeezed his hand so hard my knuckles went white. I first met Nurse Rebecca at my 32-week appointment. She wasn't my regular nurse, that was Donna, a sweet woman in her 50s who always asked about Marcus and remembered details from our previous visits. But Donna was out on medical leave, and Rebecca was covering for her. Sarah? She stood in the doorway with a clipboard, and I remember thinking she looked young. Too young to be trusted with something as precious as a pregnancy. She had this perfectly styled blonde hair, manicured nails, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. But she was professional. Efficient. She took my blood pressure, measured my belly, found Charlotte's heartbeat with the Doppler, that beautiful, rapid whooshing sound that never failed to make me cry. Everything looks great, she said, making notes in my chart. You're measuring right on track. How are you feeling? Terrified, I admitted, laughing a little. This is my 5th pregnancy. The first one to make it this far. Something flickered across her face. Sympathy? Interest? I couldn't tell. I can only imagine how scary that must be, she said softly. But you're doing amazing. Your baby is thriving. Over the next 2 months, I saw Rebecca at every appointment. Donna never came back. I learned later she'd had a stroke, poor thing, so Rebecca became my primary nurse. And I grew to like her. She was attentive, kind, always remembering to ask how I was sleeping, if my back was hurting, whether the heartburn was getting better. At my 36-week appointment, she asked about my birth plan. I want to go as natural as possible, I told her. But I'm open to whatever keeps Charlotte safe. That's all that matters. You're going to be such a good mom, Rebecca said, and something about the way she said it made my skin prickle. But I pushed the feeling away. I was 36 weeks pregnant, exhausted, and emotional about everything from toilet paper commercials to the way Marcus loaded the dishwasher. I couldn't trust my instincts anymore. At 38 weeks, my water broke at 2:47 in the morning. I know the exact time because I was staring at the clock, trying to decide if the cramping I'd been feeling was real labor or just more Braxton Hicks contractions. Then I felt that unmistakable pop, that warm gush of fluid, and I shook Marcus awake. "It's happening," I whispered. "She's coming." The drive to the hospital was surreal. It was early March, still dark outside, and the streets were empty. Marcus kept one hand on my knee while I breathed through contractions, timing them on my phone. 6 minutes apart. Then 5. Then 4. By the time we got to labor and delivery, I was in active labor. And there was Rebecca. "Sarah." She rushed over with a wheelchair. "I saw your name on the board. I'm so excited for you." Through the haze of another contraction, I felt grateful. At least I'd have a familiar face with me. Someone who knew my history, who understood how precious this moment was. She wheeled me into a delivery room, helped me into a gown, got me hooked up to monitors. Charlotte's heartbeat filled the room, strong, steady, perfect. "You're at 6 centimeters, Rebecca announced after checking me. "This baby's eager to meet you." Marcus held my hand. Rebecca came in and out, checking monitors, asking about my pain level, offering ice chips. The doctor on call stopped by, Dr. Morrison, a man I'd met once during my prenatal care, and confirmed I was progressing well. "Looks like you'll meet your daughter in the next few hours," he said. The next few hours. I'd waited 4 years for this. Survived 4 losses. Spent 9 months afraid to believe it would actually happen. And now it was happening. Charlotte was coming. Labor is a strange thing. It's primal and vulnerable and utterly consuming. You lose track of time. Your world narrows to the space between contractions, those brief moments of relief before the next wave hits. I remember Rebecca's face hovering over me. I remember Marcus wiping my forehead with a cool cloth. I remember the doctor's voice telling me to push, push, you're doing great, one more push. And then I remember the sound. That first cry. It punched through everything, the exhaustion, the pain, the fear, and filled the empty spaces inside me I didn't know existed. My baby. My daughter. She was here. She was real. She was alive. "It's a girl," Dr. Morrison announced, though we already knew. They laid her on my chest, this tiny, screaming, perfect creature covered in vernix and blood. She had dark hair, darker than I expected. Marcus's nose. My mother's chin. Her eyes scrunched closed against the bright lights, her fists waving in outrage at being pulled from the warm darkness into this cold, loud world. "Hi, Charlotte," I sobbed. "Hi, baby girl. I'm your mom. I'm your mom." Marcus was crying too, his hand on her back, his forehead pressed to mine. "She's perfect," he kept saying. "She's so perfect." 7 minutes. That's how long we had her. Then Rebecca stepped forward. "Let me take her for newborn assessments," she said gently. "We need to weigh her, measure her, give her the vitamin K shot. I'll bring her right back, I promise. It's standard procedure. Every parent goes through it. You hand over your minutes-old baby to the nurses, and they whisk them away to do all the medical necessities while you deliver the placenta and get stitched up." I didn't want to let go. My arms physically ached when Rebecca lifted Charlotte from my chest. But I trusted her. God, I trusted her. I'll be quick, Rebecca promised, already moving toward the door with my daughter in her arms. And then she was gone. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Where is she? I asked Marcus. Why is it taking so long? I'm sure she's fine, he said, but I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Maybe they're just being thorough. 45 minutes. Dr. Morrison came back to check on me, and I asked him about Charlotte. I'll go see what's taking so long, he said, frowning slightly. He came back 5 minutes later. Alone. There seems to be some confusion in the nursery, he said carefully. Give me a few more minutes to sort it out. Confusion? What kind of confusion? An hour. 90 minutes. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones, that same instinct that had told me this pregnancy was different, except now it was screaming alarm bells. Marcus, go find her, I said. Please. Something's not right. He kissed my forehead and headed for the door. I watched him go, my hands empty, my arms aching for the weight of my daughter. The placenta had been delivered. I'd been stitched up. I was just lying there, bleeding into a pad the size of a mattress, waiting. Waiting. Marcus came back 20 minutes later, his face gray. They can't find Rebecca, he said quietly. The room tilted. What do you mean they can't find her? She's not in the nursery. She's not anywhere on the floor. And? He swallowed hard. Charlotte's not in the nursery either. I tried to sit up, but my body wouldn't cooperate. I'd just pushed a human being out of me. I was shaking, weak, barely able to move. Where's my baby? I heard myself say. Where's my baby? Nurses flooded into the room. Dr. Morrison. Hospital security. Everyone talking at once, asking questions I couldn't process. Had I seen which direction Rebecca went? Did she say anything unusual? Did I have her phone number? No. 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 She'd taken my baby for assessments. Standard procedure. Routine. Normal. Except it wasn't normal. Because Rebecca wasn't in the building. And neither was Charlotte. We're reviewing security footage now, someone said. A man in a suit. Hospital administration, maybe. We've called the police. The police. The word didn't make sense. The police were for crimes. For stolen cars and break-ins and... Oh God. My baby had been stolen. The next hours exist in my memory as a series of fractured images. Marcus on his phone, shouting at someone. Me, still in the hospital bed, unable to move, my body a useless shell. Detectives with notepads asking me to describe Rebecca. Blonde. Young. Professional. Kind. She'd seemed so kind. The security footage showed her leaving the hospital through a side entrance at 6:47 a.m., less than 10 minutes after taking Charlotte from my arms. She'd walked quickly, purposefully, a bundle wrapped in a pink hospital blanket pressed to her chest. My daughter. She'd gotten into a silver Honda Accord parked in the employee lot. The license plate was registered to a Rebecca Turner, age 29, living in an apartment complex about 15 miles from the hospital. The police got a warrant. They raided her apartment. She wasn't there. But they found things. Oh God, they found things. A nursery. Fully decorated. Pink walls, white crib, name letters spelling out Charlotte above the changing table. Newborn diapers, wipes, onesies and preemie sizes. Formula. Bottles. Everything you'd need for a baby. Except it wasn't her baby. It was mine. She'd been planning this, Detective Sarah Chen told me later that afternoon. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a gentle voice, and she sat beside my hospital bed while Marcus paced the room like a caged animal. The nursery was set up at least a month ago. We're interviewing her coworkers, her friends, trying to piece together where she might have gone. Why? I whispered. Why would she do this? Detective Chen glanced at her notes. According to her supervisor, Rebecca had recently gone through a difficult divorce. There was a miscarriage involved, her ex-husband blamed her for it. She'd been seeing a therapist, seemed to be coping okay, but... She paused. Sometimes people hide things well. A miscarriage. She'd taken my baby because she'd lost hers. The logic was so twisted, so broken, that I couldn't even be angry yet. I was just numb. Empty. My arms literally ached for the weight of Charlotte, for those 7 perfect minutes before she was ripped away. We've issued an Amber Alert, Detective Chen continued. Every police officer in the state is looking for her. We're tracking her phone, her credit cards, known associates. We're going to find your daughter, Sarah. But would they find her in time? Would Charlotte be okay? Was Rebecca feeding her? Changing her? Was my baby crying for me, wondering why I wasn't coming? I'd read stories about babies who were kidnapped from hospitals. Most of them were recovered quickly. But most wasn't all. And every hour that passed felt like Charlotte was drifting further and further away from me. They made me stay in the hospital overnight for observation. Standard procedure after giving birth. But how was I supposed to rest when my daughter was missing? I refused pain medication. I needed to be alert, clear-headed, ready to act if they found her. Marcus barely left my side. His parents drove in from 2 hours away. My sister flew in from California. Everyone kept saying the same useless things. They'll find her. It's going to be okay. Stay positive. How? How was I supposed to stay positive when the only thing I'd ever wanted, the only thing I'd fought for, bled for, suffered for, had been stolen from me 7 minutes after she entered the world? At 11:30 p.m., Detective Chen called. We found Rebecca's car, she said. Abandoned at a rest stop off I-95, about 200 miles south of the hospital. Charlotte's car seat was in the back, but... She hesitated. They're not in the car. What does that mean? It means Rebecca had help. Someone picked her up. We're pulling security footage from the rest stop now. Help. Someone had helped her kidnap my baby. Who? I demanded. Who would help her do something like this? We're working on it, Detective Chen said. I'll call you the moment we know more. She hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, at the hospital room walls, at Marcus sitting in the chair beside my bed with his head in his hands. And I screamed. I screamed until my throat was raw, until nurses came running, until security had to be called because I was tearing out my and trying to leave, to do something besides lie there helpless while my daughter was out there somewhere with a woman who had stolen her. They sedated me. I don't remember agreeing to it, but I woke up hours later, groggy and disoriented, with Marcus holding my hand and sunlight streaming through the window. Any news? I croaked. His face told me everything. Not yet. 48 hours. That's how long Charlotte was missing before they found the sister. Her name was Jennifer Walsh. She lived in a small town in Virginia, about 3 hours from where I'd given birth. She was 34 years old, married to a man named David, and, according to Detective Chen, had been undergoing fertility treatments for 6 years. Without success. We found a paper trail, Detective Chen explained over the phone. Rebecca had been sending Jennifer money, thousands of dollars over the past year. Jennifer told her husband it was her inheritance from their grandmother. But their grandmother is still alive. She was paying her to help, I said. It wasn't a question. We believe so. Virginia police are at Jennifer's house right now, executing a search warrant. I gripped the phone so hard my hand cramped. Marcus stood beside me, his arm around my waist, both of us frozen in the hospital room where I'd given birth 3 days ago. 3 days without my daughter. 3 days of pumping breast milk that would go to waste because Charlotte wasn't here to drink it. 3 days of my body recovering from labor while my mind shattered into smaller and smaller pieces. "Detective," I said carefully. "Is my baby there?" A pause. "Too long. We don't know yet. Officers are still clearing the house." My knees buckled. Marcus caught me, lowered me onto the bed. "Call me back," I whispered. "The second you know." "Please." "I will." 23 minutes. That's how long I waited for Detective Chen to call back. 23 minutes of pacing, of Marcus trying to make me sit down, of my parents and sister sitting in uncomfortable chairs pretending they weren't watching me fall apart. When the phone rang, I answered before the first ring finished. "We have her." 3 words. 3 perfect, impossible, miraculous words. "Charlotte's safe," Detective Chen said, and I could hear the emotion in her voice. "She's healthy. Virginia police found her in an upstairs bedroom. Jennifer had been caring for her, she's been fed, changed, she's okay." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't speak. Couldn't do anything but sink to the floor as relief crashed over me in waves so powerful I thought I might drown. "Where's Rebecca?" Marcus asked, taking the phone from my shaking hand. "Still at large," Detective Chen said. "But we'll get her. Jennifer is in custody and talking. Right now, what matters is that Charlotte is safe, and we're bringing her home to you." Home. My baby was coming home. They transported Charlotte by ambulance from Virginia. A 3-hour drive that felt like 3 years. A pediatrician examined her thoroughly, making sure Rebecca and Jennifer hadn't hurt her, that she was healthy, thriving despite the trauma of being ripped from her mother. She was perfect. 5 pounds, 8 ounces. 19 inches long. Dark hair, Marcus's nose, my mother's chin. Exactly as I remembered from those 7 precious minutes. When they finally placed her back in my arms, I couldn't stop crying. She was asleep, swaddled in a hospital blanket, her tiny face peaceful and unaware of the chaos surrounding her birth. She didn't know she'd been stolen. She didn't know her mother had been screaming her name for 3 days. She didn't know that 2 women had conspired to take her from the family that loved her. She just knew she was being held. And that was enough. "Hi, baby girl," I whispered, touching her soft cheek, her tiny fingers, her perfect ears. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Marcus was beside me, his hand on Charlotte's head, tears streaming down his face. "She's really here," he kept saying. "She's really okay. The nurses gave us privacy. The detectives said they'd follow up later." Everyone understood that right now, in this moment, nothing mattered except the 3 of us. My family. Whole again. Rebecca Turner was arrested 4 days later at her ex-husband's house in North Carolina. She'd gone there, apparently, after Jennifer was arrested. Showed up at his door crying, begging him to take her back, to understand that she'd only taken the baby because she loved him, because she wanted to give him the child they'd lost. He called the police. She didn't resist arrest. According to the reports, she just collapsed, sobbing, saying over and over, "I was going to be such a good mom. I would have been such a good mom." Maybe she would have. Maybe in some other universe where she hadn't stolen someone else's child, where she'd gotten proper help for her mental health instead of spiral into obsessive planning, she could have been a good mother someday. But not to Charlotte. Charlotte was mine. Jennifer Walsh was charged as an accomplice. The evidence was overwhelming, text messages between her and Rebecca planning the kidnapping, financial records showing Rebecca had paid her sister nearly $30,000 over the course of a year, security footage showing Jennifer's car picking Rebecca up at the rest stop. She tried to claim she didn't know Rebecca was going to steal a baby. That she thought they were adopting through some private arrangement. That she'd never asked questions because she trusted her sister. The jury didn't buy it. Neither did I. They both pleaded guilty eventually. Rebecca got 15 years. Jennifer got 8. Their lawyers pushed for leniency, mental health issues, no prior criminal history. The baby was returned unharmed, but the judge wasn't sympathetic. "You didn't just steal a child," he said during sentencing. "You stole a mother's first moments with her daughter. You traumatized an entire family. You violated every oath you took as a healthcare professional. This was calculated, cruel, and unforgivable." I was in the courtroom when he said it. Charlotte was 6 months old by then, sleeping in Marcus's arms while I watched the woman who'd held her for 7 minutes before stealing her get led away in handcuffs. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel satisfied. I just felt tired. They say time heals all wounds. I don't think that's true. I think time just teaches you how to live with scars. Charlotte is 2 years old now. She's healthy, happy, and has no memory of those 3 terrible days. She doesn't know that her first week of life was spent in the arms of strangers. She doesn't know her mother pumped breast milk in a hospital room while detectives searched for her. She doesn't know that every milestone, her first smile, first laugh, first steps, feels like a gift I almost didn't get. But I know. And I carry it with me every single day. I can't take her to routine pediatric appointments without my heart racing. I can't let her out of my sight at playgrounds. I triple-check the locks on our doors every night. Marcus says I'm overprotective, and he's probably right, but how am I supposed to trust the world when it took my baby from me? We go to therapy. Both of us. Marcus for the trauma of watching his wife give birth and then lose their daughter. Me for everything. The PTSD, the anxiety, the nightmares where I'm in that delivery room again and Rebecca takes Charlotte and I can't move, can't scream, can't stop her. Some days are better than others. Some days I can watch Charlotte play with her blocks or chase our dog around the backyard, and I feel nothing but pure joy. Other days I look at her and think about those 3 days, and I have to excuse myself to the bathroom to cry. The hospital settled out of court. We didn't want money. We wanted accountability. We wanted to make sure this could never happen to another family. They've since implemented new security protocols, wristbands with matching ID numbers for parents and babies, security cameras in every delivery room, mandatory 2-person escort for any baby being transported within the hospital. It won't bring back those 3 days. But maybe it will save another mother from the same nightmare. People ask me sometimes if I've forgiven Rebecca. The answer is complicated. I understand mental illness. I understand grief. I understand the desperate, clawing need for a child. I lived it for 4 years before Charlotte was born. And I know Rebecca was sick. I know she'd suffered a loss that broke something fundamental inside her. But understanding isn't the same as forgiving. She didn't steal a car or a wallet or jewelry. She stole my daughter. She stole the moments I'd waited 4 years and 5 pregnancies to experience. She stole my ability to trust, to feel safe, to enjoy motherhood without the shadow of trauma hanging over everything. And she did it deliberately. Methodically. She targeted me specifically, a high-risk pregnancy, a mother who'd already lost so much. She knew how precious Charlotte was to me. She knew, and she took her anyway. So no. I haven't forgiven her. Maybe that makes me a bad person. Maybe I'm supposed to be bigger than this, more compassionate, more understanding. But I'm just a mother who held her baby for 7 minutes before she disappeared, and I'm still trying to figure out how to be okay with that. It's early March again. 2 years since Charlotte was born, since my world exploded and then slowly, painfully, came back together. We're having a birthday party this weekend. Nothing big, just family and a few close friends. Charlotte loves elephants right now, so we got elephant decorations, an elephant cake, elephant-themed party favors. She's going to wear the pink dress my mother bought her, and we're going to sing happy birthday, and she's going to smash cake all over her face while we take 1,000 pictures. Normal things. Happy things. And I'm going to cry, probably, because I cry at everything involving Charlotte. But they'll be good tears this time. Grateful tears. Because she's here. She's safe. She's mine. Last week, I got a letter from Rebecca. It came to our old address. We moved after everything happened, needed a fresh start, but my parents forwarded it. I almost threw it away without opening it, but something made me read it. It was an apology. Sort of. I know I can never make up for what I did, she wrote. I know you'll never forgive me, and you shouldn't. But I want you to know that in those 3 days I had her, I took care of Charlotte like she was my own. I fed her every 3 hours. I changed her. I held her when she cried. I didn't hurt her. I would never hurt her. I just wanted to be a mom so badly that I lost sight of everything else. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. I don't know if I'll keep it or burn it. I don't know if it matters. What matters is that Charlotte is upstairs right now, napping in her crib, safe and loved. What matters is that Marcus and I survived something that could have destroyed us, and we came out stronger. What matters is that we get to celebrate our daughter's 2nd birthday, and her 3rd, and every one after that. The nurse kidnapped my baby during childbirth to give her to her childless sister. But she failed. Because Charlotte came home. And she's never leaving again. What they don't tell you about trauma is that it doesn't end when the crisis ends. Charlotte came home, yes. She was safe, yes. But the aftermath? That's where the real battle began. The first month after we got her back, I didn't sleep. Not really. I'd doze for 20 minutes here and there, but mostly I just sat in the rocking chair beside her crib, watching her breathe. Marcus would find me there at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., my eyes wide open, my hand resting on Charlotte's chest to feel the rise and fall. Sarah, you need to sleep, he'd whisper, trying to coax me back to bed. But I couldn't. Because the moment I closed my eyes, I was back in that delivery room, watching Rebecca walk away with my daughter. Except in the nightmares, she never comes back. In the nightmares, Detective Chen calls to say they found Charlotte, but she's not okay. She's hurt. She's gone. I'd wake up gasping, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest, and I'd run to the nursery to make sure she was still there. Still breathing. Still mine. Marcus was patient at first. He understood. He'd been through it too, after all. But after weeks of this, of me refusing to let anyone else hold Charlotte, of me having panic attacks every time the doorbell rang, of me checking and rechecking the locks on the doors until my fingers were raw, he broke. You need help, he said one morning, his voice gentle but firm. Professional help, Sarah. This isn't sustainable. I wanted to be angry at him. I wanted to say he didn't understand, that he couldn't possibly know what it felt like to have your baby stolen 7 minutes after birth. But the truth was, he did understand. He'd been there. He'd lived it too. And he was coping better than I was, which somehow made everything worse. I can't, I whispered. What if something happens while I'm in therapy? What if? What if you drive yourself crazy and Charlotte grows up with a mother who's too traumatized to actually be present? He interrupted. What if you're so busy protecting her from ghosts that you miss her actual childhood? That hit me like a physical blow. Because he was right. Dr. Lisa Patterson specialized in postpartum PTSD. She was in her 50s, had kind eyes and a no-nonsense approach that I appreciated. Our first session, she asked me to describe the day Charlotte was born. I made it through the labor, the delivery, those 7 minutes of holding her. But when I got to the part where Rebecca took her away, I couldn't speak. The words stuck in my throat like shards of glass. Take your time, Dr. Patterson said softly. But there wasn't enough time in the world. I sat there for 10 minutes, crying silently, unable to form sentences. Finally, she handed me a box of tissues and said something that changed everything. Sarah, what Rebecca did to you was beyond cruel. But you know what else she took from you? She took your ability to enjoy being a mother. And every day you spend trapped in that trauma, she's still winning. I looked up at her, stunned. Charlotte is home, she continued. She's safe. She's healthy. She's growing and learning and needing her mother to be present. Not the version of you that's stuck in that delivery room, but the real you. The woman who fought for 4 years to become a mother. Don't let Rebecca take that from you too. It wasn't an instant fix. Therapy never is. But it was a starting point. We worked on grounding techniques for when the panic attacks hit. We processed the trauma bit by bit, breaking it down into manageable pieces instead of this massive, overwhelming thing. We talked about guilt, the guilt I felt for trusting Rebecca, for not somehow knowing she was dangerous, for those 7 minutes of perfect happiness before everything fell apart. You couldn't have known, Dr. Patterson said over and over. She was a trained professional. She'd passed background checks. She'd been working at that hospital for 3 years without incident. Nothing about her behavior suggested she was capable of this. You trusted her because you were supposed to trust her. Intellectually, I understood that. Emotionally? That was harder. Charlotte rolled over for the first time when she was 4 months old. I almost missed it. I'd been doing laundry. Something I'd finally felt comfortable doing while she played on her activity mat in the living room. Marcus was at work. It was just the two of us, and for the first time since she'd come home, I'd left the room without her. I heard her squeal, that high-pitched baby laugh that makes your heart melt, and I ran back in to find her on her stomach, looking immensely proud of herself. She'd rolled over. My baby had rolled over, and I hadn't seen it. I should have been excited. I should have grabbed my phone to video it, called Marcus, posted about it on social media like normal mothers do. Instead, I sat down on the floor and cried. Because I'd missed it. Rebecca had already stolen 3 days of Charlotte's life from me, and now I was stealing moments from myself by being too traumatized to function like a normal mother. That evening, when Marcus came home, I told him what happened. She rolled over, I said. And I missed it because I was in the laundry room. He looked at me carefully. Did she do it again? 3 more times, I admitted. She's so proud of herself. Then you didn't miss it, he said simply. You missed the first time, but you were there for the others. That's what matters. But it wasn't just about the rolling over. It was about everything. The first smile I'd been too anxious to notice. The first time she tracked my face with her eyes. The first time she gripped my finger with real purpose instead of just newborn reflex. I was so busy being terrified of losing her again that I was losing her anyway, just in a different way. Rebecca and Jennifer's trials happened 9 months after Charlotte was born. I'd been dreading it, having to relive everything, having to see Rebecca's face again, having to hear her excuses and justifications. The prosecution didn't need me to testify. They had enough evidence, security footage, text messages, financial records, Jennifer's confession. But I wanted to do a victim impact statement. I needed Rebecca to hear what she'd done to me, to us, to Charlotte. I wrote and rewrote that statement 100 times. Dr. Patterson helped me refine it, making sure I was processing the trauma rather than re-traumatizing myself. Marcus read it and cried. My sister said it was perfect. The day of Rebecca's sentencing, I wore a blue dress, Charlotte's favorite color, even at 9 months old. Marcus held my hand as we walked into the courtroom. Rebecca was already there, sitting at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, her face pale and drawn. She looked at me once. Just once. And I saw something in her eyes that I wasn't expecting. Shame. When the judge asked if I wanted to make my statement, I stood on shaking legs and walked to the podium. The paper trembled in my hands. Marcus gave me an encouraging nod from the gallery. I started reading. Your Honor, my name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm Charlotte's mother. I'd waited 4 years and survived 4 miscarriages to become a mother. When Charlotte was born, I held her for 7 minutes before nurse Rebecca Turner took her for routine newborn assessments. Those were supposed to be the first 7 minutes of a lifetime together. Instead, they were the only 7 minutes I got before Rebecca stole my daughter and disappeared. My voice cracked, but I kept going. For 3 days, I didn't know if Charlotte was alive or dead. If she was being fed, changed, held. If she was crying for me. I had to pump breast milk that went to waste because my baby wasn't there to drink it. I had to lie in a hospital bed, recovering from labor, while detectives searched for my stolen child. My body was healing from giving birth, but my heart was breaking in ways I didn't know were possible. Rebecca was crying now, her shoulders shaking, her hands covering her face. When we got Charlotte back, I thought the nightmare was over. But it wasn't. It was just beginning. I have PTSD. I have panic attacks. I can't sleep. I can't trust anyone with my daughter. I can't enjoy being a mother because I'm too terrified of losing her again. Rebecca Turner didn't just steal 3 days of Charlotte's life. She stole my ability to be the mother I'd fought so hard to become. I looked directly at Rebecca then. I understand you were grieving. I understand you wanted a baby so desperately that you lost yourself. But I was that person too. I knew that pain. I lived that pain for 4 years. And I never, not once, considered taking someone else's child. What you did wasn't just illegal. It was evil. And no amount of mental illness or grief excuses it. I folded the paper and walked back to my seat. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of Rebecca's crying. The judge sentenced her to 15 years. It felt both too much and not enough. 2 years after Charlotte was born, I got pregnant again. It wasn't planned. We'd talked about having another child eventually, but we were both still processing the trauma of Charlotte's birth. Marcus especially was hesitant. He'd watched his wife nearly break after what happened, and he wasn't sure either of us could handle another pregnancy. But there I was, staring at a positive pregnancy test, feeling that familiar mixture of joy and terror. This time, the terror won. I can't do this, I told Marcus that night, my hands shaking as I showed him the test. I can't go through labor again. I can't hand my baby to a nurse. I can't. Hey, he interrupted, pulling me into his arms. We're going to do this differently. We're going to have a plan. We're going to be prepared. We switched hospitals. We hired a private doula who stayed with us throughout the entire labor. We arranged for our pediatrician to come to the hospital immediately after birth to do all the newborn assessments in our room. We made sure no nurse ever left our site with the baby. The pregnancy was harder than Charlotte's had been, not physically, but mentally. Every appointment was an anxiety attack waiting to happen. Every ultrasound felt like I was waiting for bad news. I was seeing Dr. Patterson twice a week instead of once, working through the trauma of preparing to give birth again. This isn't Charlotte's birth, she'd remind me. Different hospital. Different circumstances. Different outcome. But trauma doesn't listen to logic. When my water broke at 39 weeks, I had a full-blown panic attack in the car on the way to the hospital. I can't do this, I kept saying. Marcus, I can't do this. You can, he said firmly, one hand on the wheel, one hand gripping mine. You're the strongest person I know. You've already survived the worst thing that could happen. This is just birth. You've done this before. But it wasn't just birth. It was trusting the world again. It was believing that this time, things would be different. Our doula, Karen, met us at the hospital entrance. She was a calm, grounding presence, exactly what I needed. She stayed with me through every contraction, every push, every moment of terror that this would somehow end the way Charlotte's birth had. My son, we named him James, after Marcus's father, was born at 6:23 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And he never left my sight. Not for assessments, not for weighing, not for anything. Our pediatrician did everything right there in the delivery room while I held James against my chest. Marcus cut the cord. Karen took photos. The nurses were understanding, accommodating, never once making me feel like my requests were unreasonable. I held James for 2 hours before I finally relaxed enough to let Marcus hold him. And even then, I watched like a hawk, my body tense, ready to snatch him back if anything felt wrong. "He's perfect," Marcus whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Sarah, we did it. We really did it." And for the first time since Charlotte was born, I felt something other than fear. I felt hope. James is 6 months old now. Charlotte just turned 2. And I'm finally starting to feel like myself again, or maybe a new version of myself. The old Sarah, the one who existed before Rebecca, is gone. But the new Sarah is stronger. Scarred, yes. Traumatized, absolutely. But stronger. I still go to therapy. I probably always will. Dr. Patterson says that's okay, that healing isn't about reaching some finish line where you're fixed. It's about learning to live with what happened, to integrate it into your story without letting it consume you. I'm learning. Charlotte doesn't remember being kidnapped, thank God. She's a happy, energetic toddler who loves elephants and Play-Doh and reading the same book 17 times in a row. She adores her baby brother, constantly trying to help with diaper changes and feeding, which usually just means patting his head and saying baby. Baby, in her high-pitched toddler voice. She doesn't know her birth story is different from other kids. She doesn't know her mother spent 3 days screaming her name. She doesn't know that 2 women are in prison because of her. And I hope she never has to know. We'll tell her someday, when she's old enough to understand. But for now, she just knows she's loved. Fiercely, completely, protectively loved. That's enough. Last month, something happened that I wasn't prepared for. I was at Target with Charlotte. Just a quick trip for diapers and baby food. Charlotte was in the cart, happily munching on the free cookie the bakery department gives to kids, when I turned down the baby aisle and nearly collided with another cart. "Oh, I'm so," the woman started to say, then stopped. I looked up. It was Jennifer's husband. David Walsh. I recognized him from the trial. We stared at each other for a long, uncomfortable moment. He looked older than I remembered, grayer, the weight of everything sitting heavy on his shoulders. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said quietly. I'm sorry. I'll go." He started to turn his cart around, but something made me speak. "Wait." He froze. I didn't know what I was going to say. I hadn't thought this through. But standing there in the Target baby aisle, with Charlotte obliviously eating her cookie, I realized I needed to say something. "Did you know?" I asked. "What they were planning?" He looked at me with such profound sadness that I almost regretted asking. "No," he said. "I swear to God, I didn't know. Jennifer told me we were adopting through a private agency. I thought the money she was sending Rebecca was for legal fees. I'm an idiot, but I'm not a monster. I would never," his voice broke. "I would never have let her do that to you." I believed him. Maybe I was naive, but I believed him. "She destroyed my life too," he continued softly. "I loved her. I wanted a baby with her so badly. But not like that. Never like that. We're divorced now. I haven't spoken to her since the trial." Charlotte chose that moment to drop her cookie and start to fuss. I automatically reached down to pick it up, to soothe her, to do all the normal mom things I'd fought so hard to be able to do. David watched me with something like longing in his eyes. "Your daughter is beautiful," he said. "I'm glad she's home. I'm glad she's safe. And I'm sorry. For everything." Then he walked away, leaving me standing in the baby aisle with my daughter, trying to process what had just happened. That encounter stayed with me for weeks. I talked about it in therapy, trying to understand why it affected me so much. You saw someone else who was hurt by what Rebecca and Jennifer did, Dr. Patterson said. You realized that you weren't the only victim in this story. She was right. David Walsh had lost his wife, his chance at fatherhood, his entire life plan, all because his wife had helped her sister steal a baby. He was a victim too, just in a different way. It didn't make me forgive Jennifer. Nothing could make me forgive Jennifer. But it complicated things. Made the story more nuanced than just evil women steal baby. People are complicated. Trauma is complicated. And healing? That's the most complicated of all. Sometimes, late at night when both kids are asleep and Marcus is snoring softly beside me, I write letters to Rebecca in my head. I never actually write them down. I never send them. But I compose them in the darkness, trying to figure out what I'd say if I could. Sometimes they're angry, you stole the most precious thing in my life. You violated my trust. You betrayed your profession. I hope you never sleep peacefully again. Sometimes they're sad. I understand wanting a baby so desperately that you lose yourself. I was there too. But I found other ways to cope. Why couldn't you? Sometimes they're just tired, I don't think about you every day anymore. That feels like progress. But you'll always be part of my story, whether I want you to be or not. I'll never send any of these letters. Rebecca is in prison, serving her time, supposedly getting help for her mental health issues. What would be the point? But writing them in my head helps somehow. It's a way of processing everything that still feels too big to fully understand. Dr. Patterson says that's okay. That healing doesn't mean forgetting or forgiving. It just means learning to carry the weight without it crushing you. I'm still learning how to do that. Charlotte's 3rd birthday is coming up soon. We're throwing a bigger party this year, her preschool friends, their parents, family from out of town. An inflatable bounce house in the backyard. A princess-themed cake because she's going through a princess phase. Normal things. Wonderful things. James will be there too, probably sleeping through most of it in his carrier while relatives take turns cooing over him. He looks exactly like Marcus, same eyes, same smile, same calm temperament. Charlotte, meanwhile, is pure chaos in toddler form, all energy and opinions and big feelings. They're both perfect. Both exactly who they're supposed to be. And I'm finally starting to be who I'm supposed to be too. Not the broken version of myself from those first months after Charlotte came home. Not the terrified version from James's birth. But someone new. Someone who's lived through hell and came out the other side. Someone who's still learning, still healing, still growing. The nurse kidnapped my baby during childbirth to give her to her childless sister. But that's not the end of the story. The end of the story is this: Charlotte is about to turn 3. James just learned to roll over, and this time I was there to see it. Marcus and I are stronger than we've ever been. We're talking about maybe, possibly, trying for a 3rd baby in a few years. The end of the story is that Rebecca and Jennifer are in prison, paying for what they did, while I'm home with my children, watching them grow and thrive and become the people they're meant to be. The end of the story is that trauma tried to destroy me, and some days it almost succeeded. But I'm still here. Still fighting. Still healing. Still a mother. And that's the only ending that matters.